This is the Tech Phantom and welcome to this builds video. And in this video I want to highlight a build that I'm calling a hard-hitting buff build. And it is centered around Flynn's ring. And I wanted to make this build ever since I got my hands on that ring. And now that I finally understand how it works, how the mechanics are, I thought it would be really neat to make a character that uses fling rings and other buff methods to hit as hard as possible. Something that's actually pretty useful for the downloadable content, episode 1 and episode 2. Alright, so let's get started here, guys. So, let's take a look at the attack rating of my character. My character is doing 573 attack rating. Now, how did I get my attack rating to be so high? Well, by using Flynn's ring and the Ring of Blades +2. So let's go back and let's rebuild this character, I guess, from scratch. So going back to the character status screen, you can see that my strength is 67. That's giving me, and my dexterity is 20. That's giving me an attack rating of 473 on the Red Iron Twinblade. Now, you do not need to have strength of 67. I happen to have that in this character. This is a very viable build at either 20 strength, 40 strength, or 50 strength or higher. And I actually think that 50 strength is the sweet spot, and I'll talk about why in a little bit. Okay, so we're at 473. Let's see what happens when we equip the Ring of Blades +2. So the Ring of Blades +2 is going to give us a bonus of 50 attack rating to our weapon, to weapons that do physical damage. And sure enough, our attack rating is now 523. Now let's see what happens when we equip Flynn's ring. So we're going to put on Flynn's ring, and our attack rating is now 573. So we've gained a total of 100 attack rating points to of physical damage to our weapon. And obviously that's a passive, but it's a permanent effect. Alright, now there is one catch with Flynn's ring, and that is that your equipment load has to be less than 60. You cannot be at more. For every half a point of equipment load that you are over 60, you will use 1 point of attack rating. So let's say that my equipment load was 61. Then I would lose 2 points of attack rating, and my attack rating would be 571 instead of 573. Now, there is a little bit of a bug, or I don't want to say a bug, but there is some misinformation out there that you have to be at exactly 60 or less than 60 to get the 50-point buff from Flynn's ring. That is not the case. And if you see on the lower right-hand corner, you can see that my equipment load is actually 60.2. So I've gone beyond the 60, but I'm nowhere near the 60.5. So you can go to at least 60.2 and still receive the full bonus, the full effect of Flynn's ring. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's figure out how else we can buff this character. So if you notice here, my faith is at 20. The requirement for this build is actually to have faith of 10, and that is because we're going to use a miracle to buff our damage even further. And that miracle is Sacred Oath, and you need 10 faith to equip a chime. And you can reduce the faith requirements of Sacred Oath to 10 by using Skeptic Spice. Now, I didn't do that for this character. I only lowered it to the requirements to about 20. But actually, this is, again, you can take this 20 faith down to 10 faith. As a matter of fact, if you guys want to know more about the details of this build and my recommendations for what the minimum requirements are, there is a blog post that I wrote, and I'm going to have that in the description of the video, and you guys can feel free to read that. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's buff with Sacred Oath. So first of all, we need a chime. So let's use the cleric's chime and you can see that the requirement for this chime is 10. Now this chime is completely unupgraded. We don't need to upgrade it to cast Sacred Oath. So we're gonna cast Sacred Oath, and now let's take a look at our attack rating. Our attack rating is now 623. So we've gained an additional 50 attack rating. Now, Sacred Oath, with 4 attunement slots, which is the minimum that you need for Sacred Oath, you are going to get 3 casts of Sacred Oath. You can increase that by wearing the Hexer's Hood. That will actually give you an additional cast. So you can have 4 Sacred Oaths. That's a total of 4 minutes of buff time. And obviously, on top of buffing your physical damage, you can also do you can buff with spells, or you can buff with Resins. So you can actually apply something like Gold Pine Resin, and that will add an additional 50 elemental damage to the attack rating. It's not going to change the physical attack rating, but it will change the attack rating. It will improve the elemental attack rating of your weapon. Now there is one more way to buff, and that is by using a Bright Bug, and that is the strongest buff that you can have in the game, as far as I know. A Bright Bug will increase your attack rating by 20% for 2 minutes. It will also increase your defenses as well, so it's kind of like a super powered up version of Sacred Oath in consumable form. Now, you will have a status effect on you when you eat or when you consume a Bright Bug. It will not show on your attack rating, but you will be doing more damage. So that would be an additional way to buff. Alright, so let me show you guys very quickly about the equipment that I've selected for this build. So obviously I mentioned the Hexer's Hood because I want an additional cast of Sacred Oath, an additional minute of buff. I'm using the Alone Knight Armor plus 10. It's got high physical defense, but it also has very high poise, which I like. You can have other armors that are about the same weight that actually have more defense, but don't have the poise, and I'd like to have a little bit of poise in this character. And I'm using the Lion Mage cuffs and the Lion Mage skirt, and that's because they have good elemental resistances. They're very light, but they give you some curse, some petrification, some magic defense, that kind of stuff. So an alternate item that you can wear is the flower skirt, because that will actually buff. That will buff your character a little bit. I believe it buffs your vigor and it buffs your endurance, and you see that my vigor has gone up to 52 and my endurance has gone up to 21. They were 50 and 20 before. So that would be an alternate item. All right. As far as the shield, to me the shield that makes the most sense is the Royal Kite Shield plus 10. So let's equip that. And with that, we are fully outfitted. You could see that we are at 67.7%. So we are a couple of points. We can, from fat rolling, so we can still do the fast roll. One of the things that you can do, obviously, if you wanted to wear a little bit heavier armor, is you can increase your vitality. You can increase your equipment load. If you increase your equipment load to 65, you would be losing 10 points of attack rating. However, if you raise your strength from 40 to 50, you're going to gain, depending on the weapon and the scaling, you're going to gain something like 6 to 10 attack rating. So that's why I said that I think the sweet spot on the strength for this build is 50, because with 50 strength you have the capability to equip the Royal Soldier's Ring, which will increase your equipment load. It will drop the buff that you get from Flynn's Ring, but you're still going to have a very significant buff of 40, and you'll have the addition of being able to have higher armor, or even being able to equip a heavy shield like the Tower Shield. But for this character, for the most part, I've been using the Royal Kite Shield plus 10. Alright guys, well, that's gonna do it for this video. there is going to be a playlist separate from this video where I'm going to show you guys this build in action against all of the bosses in Crown of the Sunken King and all of the bosses in Crown of the Old Iron King. So this build was absolutely fantastic. I love being able to buff. One of the advantages of using the Red Iron Twinblade is that it has a combo. So if you take a look at the one-handed attacks, you could see that they combo. The two-handed attacks combo even more, especially the two-handed strong attack, where you can have a combo followed by a spin to win. So if you can imagine yourself buffed to the gills with Sacred Oath and with the Resin and with the buffs that you get from the rings and with something like a Bright Bug, and you're doing combos, you're going to basically be like a buzzsaw, and you are just going to destroy pretty much anything that's on your path. As far as alternates for this build or little tweaks, I would love to hear your thoughts. Two of the things that I thought about that I really would like to try. First one would be a power stancing dual wielder. And instead of using the Red Iron Twinblade, I would use the Red Rust Scimitar on the right hand and the Red Rust sword on the left hand. With that combination, you wouldn't need a shield because you would be dual wielding and power stancing. You could wear heavier armor, and when your power stance a scimitar and a straight sword, you can do a 6-hit combo. And the Red Rust scimitar and sword are heavy, they break poise, and they do a ton of damage. An alternate to that, you would need to add a little bit of dexterity, would be the Sun Sword on the right hand and the Warp Sword on the left hand. And you can get some pretty wicked combos off of those weapons as well. And obviously when you buff them, you can do a lot of damage. And then the last variation that I thought about would be a left-handed variation where you actually use the Majestic Greatsword. Now, something that maybe you guys know, maybe you guys don't know, but you definitely want to take advantage of this if you like the Majestic Greatsword. When you equip the Majestic Greatsword on the left hand, you receive a bonus of 50 to your attack rating. When you equip it on the right hand, you get your standard attack rating. When you equip it on the left hand, you get an additional 50 bonus points. So that would be an additional 50 point buff. You would have to play left-handed with the shield on the right hand, or you'd have to go two-handed the whole game. But I thought that would be a pretty neat build, you know, something like a buffed, hard-hitting Swordmaster. Anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this build. Again, please check out my post or my blog post if you have more questions or want to know more details about this build. And also check out the videos that are going to be coming up, the playlist where I'm going to show you this build in action against all of the bosses in the DLC. I look forward to your comments. This is the Tech Phantom, signing off.